The following game is rated M for mature. Viewer discretion is advised. Senran Kagura Estival Versus is the newest entry in the Senran Kagura series. This entry brings our girls to a mysterious island where shinobis who have passed away aren't ready to move on yet, so it's up to the Hanzo, Hibijo, Jessen, and Humora squads to fulfill the task asked upon Izuka's grandmother to complete the Kagura Millennial Festival. To complete this festival, each group must protect their platforms from each other for 8 days. As per usual, the story to Senran Kagura is far from important, and not very interesting if you don't like the characters. The story in Estival Versus is a continuation of all of the hanging plot threads left behind in Shinobi Versus, meaning some of the events of Shinobi Versus all happen in one way or another, which doesn't make much sense, but Estival Versus makes it work. That said, to make it clear, there aren't 4 different story modes to choose from, but one lengthy campaign. The story itself isn't so bad. While I didn't enjoy it so much as I did Senran Kagura 2 as nothing was necessarily serious, watching some of the girls learn to deal with the loss of their loved ones was really charming. It was especially funny and at the same time sort of sad seeing one of them completely change personalities from just spending time with them. There are 3 different types of missions to choose from: Kagura Millennial Festival, Shinobi Girl's Heart, and special missions. The Kagura Millennial Festival is the game's story missions. All of the story objectives are pretty much the same. Go from point A to point B while beating up the bad guys along the way, and eventually the boss or bosses. In terms of variety, there are a couple of courses with time limits, but that's about it. What's cool about the fact that it's a single campaign is that you can play through every mission with all 32 characters, counting DLC, and if you have the time on your hands, you can do all of that 3 times if you do it on the easy, normal, and hard difficulty settings. Remember when I said that the reason why the girls are fighting in the first place are to protect the platforms from opposing groups? Well, eventually destroying enough will unlock a Shinobi Girl's Heart mission, which is essentially a character's side story. The special missions are where the DLC missions are held. Due to being released on the PlayStation 4, the righteous boobage producer Kenshiro Takaki, the actual producer and director of the franchise, has decided to give the game a major facelift in terms of just about everything. In terms of gameplay, even with its ever-expanding roster, no 2 characters feel the same in terms of style. Everyone is very distinct from each other. Yomi, for instance, is a very slow-hitting character due to her huge sword, but it's made up for the fact with the amount of damage she can do with a clean hit. This game is overall much more combo-heavy than any previous entry. Granted, this is partially due to the fact that there are now much more enemies on screen, especially if you're playing on the PS4 version, but right out of the gate, you've got a lot more combos to do, and they eventually get longer. Creative finishers have been added, which are basically small vignettes you could possibly trigger when you dealt enough closing damage and hit them with ninja art on some parts of certain maps. There are now AI teammates during some missions as well. They fight alongside you during missions and transform when you do. Sadly, they're sort of brain dead and oddly just stand around from time to time even though an enemy is right next to them. Eventually they will go attack them, but it's pretty bizarre to see. If anything, before you had AI companions, you could essentially just combo an opponent and then aerial rave them, basically follow up your combo with another one while in the air. In this game, they can help out with it in its own special variations. You can even run on walls now in this game, as well as providing another attack to use or just wanting to dodge oncoming fire. Gameplay wasn't the only thing that's gotten bigger and better either. Due to the ability to wall run, some maps are now made with verticality in mind, which of course wasn't necessary before now. But now, even old maps are made bigger due to this accommodation, as well as the fact that they have to hide platforms from you as well. Graphically, this game is much better looking than its predecessors, as well as better breast physics, if that matters to anyone. As much as the gameplay has improved, the dressing room has improved quite well as well. Now you can customize 3, or 5 if you're on the PS4 version, characters at once with a much more robust lineup of closing options and lingerage than ever before. If you're the creative type though, there is a diorama mode in which you can make your characters pose in various ways, and if you're really good at it, you can make some really interesting stuff, but if you're like me, it'll just be some simple default poses and nothing more. This game also features some multiplayer modes as well, from a free-for-all to death matches to even horde modes, as well as 3 other modes. You can play with up to 4 players total, or 10 if you're on the PS4. The good thing is it doesn't feel tacked on, but with the fact that there are AI companions in some story missions, it almost feels like a wasted opportunity for you not to be able to do some missions with a friend. At the end of the day, this game is filled with so many great improvements that the Vita can't handle it all, sadly. Between the subpar frame rates and the long loading times, it almost makes me want to go back to a much simpler game like Shinobi Versus. But this game is so much better that it can be overlooked quite easily. Of course, if you're playing on a PS4, these issues are non-existent. Another gripe I have with this game is that there is a bug where enemies will appear literally outside of the fighting arena, meaning you would have to restart the mission so you can fight them properly. Thankfully, this only happens in a handful of missions, but truthfully, this shouldn't happen at all. Senran Kagura Estival Versus is a worthy successor to Shinobi Versus. Despite a few glitches and bad companion AI, this game is all around a solid entry into the Senran Kagura series, and is worth a buy for fans of the series. For a more in-depth and detailed review of this game, be sure to check out our website to Gaming Gamma, and a link to the review will be in the description bar below, and also be sure to leave your comment down in the comment section below letting us know what you guys, if you guys are picking up the game or not, if you have it already, what do you guys think of it? We'd love to read your comments, and we also would love to answer your questions. And as always everyone, this is Gammalad signing off.